Welcome back, everyone. Today I wanted to share with you a spread that I did for the winter solstice. Now, yesterday was the official day for the winter solstice here in the Southern Hemisphere, which is the 21st of June. And being a Sunday, I ran a tarot workshop at a local art studio where we worked with tarot, and I kept it to tarot only, to work with the symbolism of this day, i.e. the fact that it is the longest night and the shortest day. So we worked with that symbolism to do some spreads and gain some guidance for the coming 6 months, as from this day forward, the days begin to grow longer. So the spread that I offered my participants to try, now there are many variations of the spread. I called it the longest night spread. So I wanted, first of all, to look at the fact that, this is a dark time, and we cannot ignore that or brush over it, being the longest night, but it also has some value, and there is merit in seeking some guidance because of that. I did put a quote by Carl Gustav Jung, which is, I think it's one of his more famous quotes, that goes something like, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The latter procedure, however, is disagreeable and therefore not popular. Now, I know that there is a critique of psychoanalysis. I'm aware of that by many people. But I think that a lot of that critique misses the point. We're not here to dwell in the darkness forever and ever and, make it a badge of honor of our wounds. But it's there so that we can understand a little bit more about ourselves, and in that process become a little bit more integrated. And also, personally, I found that it really changes the way that I not only view the world, but on how I interact with the world. And it's a change for the better. So, with that being said, there are 4 cards that I drew, and I put them on the cards in a vertical line. I've got them here laid out horizontally because it's easier for the purposes of filming. But these are the questions that I wanted to explore, and there are variations of this. You can ask so many other questions, or you can reframe it. I think in hindsight I might have changed the first question, which goes, what I need to reflect upon or shine a light on. This could be a lesson or an aspect of my shadow self that I need to acknowledge and bring to light. I felt like it might have been a bit too wordy and lengthy for some participants, and I need to somehow condense it for the next time. The second question was, what aspect of my life needs nurturing during this dark time? Third card, what needs to be released or let go of? This could be old habits, beliefs, or situations in order to make space for growth. The fourth card was a divine spark card. So I just wanted a card for our inner divine spark that each and every one of us carries. And that's how my inner light illuminates my path. And I'm going to share with you the cards that I got as an example. Although we went around the circle and everyone got to share the cards that they got. And it was really, really interesting and beautiful to see how supportive some of the messages were for the participants and how on point as well. Of course, I shouldn't be surprised. So I do have my cup of tea here, as always. Okay, so the first card is something that I needed to reflect upon or shine a light on. This could be a lesson or an aspect of my shadow self that I need to acknowledge and bring to light. And I got the Temperance card. Now, shining a light on temperance really means bringing into my life more balance and not going to extremes. Now, for me, actually, this is really interesting because only recently I found myself one night I went overboard with how much I drank. So I hardly drink anymore. Like, I'll go weeks without drinking, and it's been fantastic. But then, just one example of only a few days ago, like I just started having a glass of wine, and then I had a second glass, and then I had a third glass, and it was really nice wine, but you know how it is sometimes. And I really did regret it the next day, because I didn't need the third glass or the fourth glass. Now that's a really simple example. I think in a broader perspective, if I was to zoom the lens out and look at my life as a whole, temperance to me really is about moderation in thought and not going to extremes in mental thought. That's kind of like one of my biggest lessons in terms of how I view the world. The extreme on one hand is seeing the world as incredibly positive, and I do, and just amazing. But then there's also the other side. There's the dark side of the world. So anyhow, so that was the first card. The second card was, what aspect of my life needs nurturing during this dark time? And I got the Queen of Pentacles, and hey, I'm done with this. I am so down with being cozy, getting comfy, especially over these winter months, but at any point. Remember that I'm working with, in terms of a timeline, the winter solstice starts this broader journey, and it goes on for 6 months, because the light begins to increase from now on a little bit each day, and it continues to do so for 6 months. So I'm looking at a time frame of 6 months. So the Queen of Pentacles to me is something that I need to nurture during this dark time. It's kind of saying, nurture myself. Give myself that wonderful ability to just chill and enjoy my garden and enjoy coziness and good food. And I normally do that as well. However, the third card, what needs to be released or let go of, old habits, beliefs, or situations in order to make space for growth, I got the Ten of Wands. So what this is saying is that I need to embrace more of, not because I don't already do that, but I don't do it sufficiently. What I do too much of is take on too many projects and responsibilities. And hey, that's something that I think most mothers can relate to, right? Most mothers who still have work, being a mom is a full-time job all the time. And outside of that, I also have my tarot work. I volunteer for the community gardens in quite a reasonable capacity, and the work that I do there. There's just lots of moving parts in my life, and this is kind of saying, I need to drop some things. But so that's really, really encouraging. This whole spread is saying it's okay to, balance my life, and I gotta really shine a light on this and bring this out to the surface, this temperance. What I need to nurture is really nurture myself, and look after myself, but in a really grounded way, in a really down-to-earth way, and I just enjoy where I'm at in life. I don't need to chase anything, I don't need to prove anything, I need to just enjoy my home and my garden. Okay, I need to let go of some of these wands. I'm carrying too many. They're giving me a backache. And then finally, the fourth card, which is the most puzzling card, but this character has come up before, and I gotta do some work around him. And this is a divine spark, how my inner light illuminates my path, and I really wished I'd gotten some sort of more, more spiritual card maybe. I got the Knight of Swords. And it's come up before in my previous video. I've talked about the Knight of Swords. This is really interesting because very recently, I've talked about how I see, actually, let me just pause it, go back a bit. I've talked before how I see this guy as a bit angry and aggressive and confrontational, and I didn't like that. I think that was where my apprehension with this card came from, right? I've never embraced this card. I mean, I'll embrace that one, absolutely. But when I see the Knight of Swords, I'm like, ugh, who wants to deal with this person? And he does. He looks just a bit aggressive. He looks a bit like it's jarring. It's not cozy. It's not calm. He ain't zen. But I think what this is trying to tell me is that there's a place for this energy in my life, all right? And that my divine spark, how my inner light illuminates my path, that spark is very much a spark of, there's a bit of activism in that. Now, I'm not an activist in the way people think of activists, but I do bat for loads of things that encompass the umbrella of sustainability, particularly when it comes to food. I bet for, heritage seeds and localized food systems and organic methods of gardening and a lighter footprint on the earth. That's just so important to me. And so my work kind of pushes for that, but it's not like a... I'm not like a... I don't go out there with a placard and yell at people, if that makes sense. So what it's saying is that it's saying to have courage. I see the Knight of Swords, like the positive of this card to me is a card of courage. And I've always held that courage within me to practice the things that I believe in and to work for that world that I envision in my mind. But interestingly, I recently did a very quick spread on archetypes. And it was a bit of a, I wouldn't say it was shadow work per se. I kind of dislike shadow work, the exact wording of that. So I do have, obviously, this being the longest night, there's an element of shadow work in it, in the first card that I've picked and the way that I've written that question. However, I recently did a very simple 2-card spread with an oracle deck. I got out the 3 Black Moons Oracle. There was something about this deck. I've hardly ever used this deck. It does contain nudity, and maybe that's why I don't do a lot of filming with it, but I don't even use it in my personal practice that much. But it called to me and really just wanted to be, to come into my practice. So the 2 questions that I asked was, the first was an aspect of myself that needs to be brought to light and acknowledged or processed. And for that one, I got the card of loss. So it's about dealing with loss. It tells me that there's things that I have experienced as a loss that I haven't acknowledged or processed fully. And I know what this is about. Now, the second card was an aspect that I need to embrace or to nurture. And here I was thinking I was going to get, the witch card or... God, I live in my head so much. Because the card that I got, and let me just cover the top of it because there's a lot of nudity. I can't show it, but I got the anger card. Now, I thought to myself, well, how can I embrace or nurture anger? Right, here's the anger card. And what this is really saying, and finally I realized what it was about, and it was about the fact that anger was never something that I could express as a child, even though it was imparted upon me in spades. And I think I suppressed just so much. I'm not saying that I gotta go around like a raging lunatic and scream at the world like a mad banshee, but it is saying that anger is not a negative thing, and I need to find a way to constructively work with that. And I can't help but wonder whether this divine spark here, this Knight of Swords, is like a courageous direction of, internal energy, or like maybe find a positive way to express anger or to have courage to go for the things that I want. I don't know, that's kind of like what I've thought of when this came up, but to be honest, I'm still not good friends with the Knight of Swords. We'll have to rectify that at some stage. So, for any Southern Hemisphere tarot readers, if you would like to try a winter solstice spread, you're more than welcome to try my longest night spread. But there's just like many variations that you can do with this, and you're welcome to come up with your own or modify it and so on. No one really owns tarot spreads. They're so fluid and so changeable, and you can make them as you need to and ask the questions that are relevant to you. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you as always for watching my videos and supporting my channel, and until my next video, take care.